I'm Steve Couper. I help busy income professionals in the aerospace, medical, and dental fields put their money to work through passive multifamily real estate investing. Most of my clients are great at earning income. They're tired, however, of the underwhelming returns they're getting through the mutual funds and stocks. So what I bring is vetted opportunities. I provide clear, consistent communication so they can help build their wealth with confidence. I served in the Canadian Armed Forces as an instrument electrical technician, then spent 25 years leading high-performance aerospace programs at Cascade Aerospace. I'm the director of D&D program. I'm responsible for the execution of programs valued over $60 million annually. Hey, hey, hey!
Hey, good morning.
How are you, my friend?
Super duper. How are you?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. I can hear you just fine.
That's great. That's great.
Welcome to the Steve Couper Show. My name's not Steve Couper. His name is Steve Couper. I'm Luis, and I'm here to interview him and let you know all about him. Get to know him for once. If you were to think about like unfair advantage in today's landscape, any tiny little advantage we can get because things are so tight in everything.
Absolutely.
There's very little margin of error, taxes and income, and prices of things are going up and prices of value is going down. What, in your definition, is an unfair advantage?
You know, there's a lot of people trying to do this. There's a lot of people that come with a lot of passion, but without necessarily having the background to effectively manage projects. They don't understand the risks that can come up. They fail on communication. There's a lot of folks that do really well at it, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of folks that are missing that extra punch. And what I bring to the table with my experience, the world of aviation that I've built a career in. I started off, I'll tell you, I started off in coveralls. I started off as an instrument electrical technician in the Canadian Armed Forces, right? I built a career.
When did you start that?
Oh, you're going to put a date stamp on it. It's not good. I mean, dude, it was 1979. In 1979. So I actually surprised my parents. I came home one day with a pamphlet that I'd picked up at the recruiting center. A friend had needed a ride, and he said, "Steve, I need to get into Vancouver for a meeting. Can you give me a ride?" And I drove him in, and I sat in the waiting room of the Canadian Armed Forces Recruiting Center, reading all the pamphlets on the wall and looking at that and saying, right now I'm unemployed. I don't have a compass. I don't know where I'm going. I have no idea what I want to do. I was 18 years old. And so I started reading through these pamphlets and I grabbed one of or two or three of them and I brought them home and I shared it with my parents saying, I'd like to do this. And, they were looking at me. I'd quit school early. I was at home. I was not paying rent, and they looked at me saying I wanted to actually build a career in the Canadian Armed Forces, and they said, "Ooh, that'd be nice, son."
Off you go.
So 30 days later, I was in the other side of the country in boot camp. It happened real fast. I didn't have time to change my mind. And I'm there with 140 people that are all strangers, we're all coming from different parts of the country into one place. And, I'm nervous. This is the first time I've ever really been away from home.
Wow.
Um, and and yet I'm somehow so determined, so focused on trying to succeed at something that I put my heart and soul into it. And, there was about 30% of that boot camp class that were kicked out or just dropped out. It was hard work. But I came through that successful and I applied that same kind of mindset, that same desire to succeed into what came next in electronics training, where, I really didn't have the background or the education going into it, but I applied that focus into what I was learning and came out top of the class through all of the math, AC, DC, power supply kind of training that they provided right away. And that allowed me opportunity to be the one to say, I get to choose that trade. So it gave me a little bit of drive, right? It's one thing to just show up in school and learn something. It's another to know that at the end of that, you've got the opportunity to pick your path. And I knew what I wanted, right? Because I had that pamphlet ingrained in my brain. So I knew that that's what I wanted to be. So I got to actually put my passion to work and actually focus on achieving that. I came in the top of my class through all of that training, and it gave me an opportunity to choose where I wanted to go as well. So I managed to choose Germany, and I spent the first 5 years of my military career at a place called Baden-Solingen working on fighter jets. I mean, who gets to do that? Who gets to say that they've accomplished that? What does that have to do with real estate? What does that have to do with my unfair advantage? Well, it starts off with mindset and understanding what you can accomplish if you put your mind to something. What is mindset? It's what you set your mind to, right? This is what it really means. What are you driven towards succeeding in? So that's what moved me in the early parts of my career. I've since been posted around the country. My second posting was to a place called Gagetown, New Brunswick. So once again,
Okay.
I'm on the other coast of where I'm comfortable. I had to learn about why is that cord hanging out the front of the car, We have winter out there. There was a lot of things I had to learn
Talk
about.
here.
But I got there and I had just enjoyed 5 years of glory overseas. I'd lived the life of Riley. I went there as a single guy, 19 years old, and I came home married. I came home with a new motorcycle, and look, I had $3,000 Canada Savings Bond in my hand, and that was it. No cash anywhere else. So I went and I actually went to a realtor and I said, I'd like to buy a house. And she looked at me like I had two heads. I've got $3,000 in my hand, and I think I'm going to buy a house. But I was willing to move outside of the downtown core. I was willing to go out in the tertiary markets and find a place. And so we bought a 2-acre hobby farm. A two
Nice.
acre hobby farm in a place called Hoyt, New Brunswick, and it cost $27,500. This was a century home. It had air for insulation. It was expensive to heat, and yet it was lovely. In the course of the 5 years I lived there, I built a garage. I didn't know how to build a garage, but the neighbors across the street did. So I paid them, and they taught me while we did it together. So I learned all about construction. I'm an electrician by trade and working on airplanes. So I applied that to actually learn about household wiring and learn about this. It was a hobby farm. So we had a barn in the back and we wanted water up there, and I didn't want to schlep buckets, so we had to run plumbing up there. I learned about soldering pipes, and this is in the days before PEX, right? So I learned about freezing pipes as well, you know?
Mm.
Right. So I picked up a lot of skills that are relevant, I think, then. Since then, I've moved a few times. I've working as a director of programs at a place called Cascade Aerospace. So, I worked in the Canadian Armed Forces and now for the last 25 years, I've been responsible for leading high performance aerospace programs at Cascade Aerospace. And I'm currently the director of D&D programs there. And that program's over $60 million a year. So you
Wow.
imagine I started in coveralls on the hangar floor. I'm now accountable for the execution, the efficient execution of $60 million programs annually. It's quite a growth, right? I'm a certified project management professional. I'm an aircraft maintenance engineer. I'm a lean black belt. And I bring all of that work, all of that skill together, and I think that provides me an unfair advantage in real estate. All of that background, the things that I learned from the ground up, I've got experience with, I rent a suite down in the basement right now. This is not something everybody brings to the table. We all come from somewhere different, but I feel that my understanding of how to execute programs and projects and be able to understand the fundamentals of real estate and what your mind can bring to the table, take all of those things, put them in a ball, shake it up, and you got me.
I love it. I love
Right.
it. I get as you were talking about your trajectory and what where you started, and especially with the the arm, like with the Air Force essentially. I just had this vision in my head, or I heard a voice in my head say, he's the Top Gun investor.
Well, there you go. I'll take that.
Top Gun investor, you have the ability to teach yourself and to adapt. And I have a project management experience, in my previous life. Adaptability and leadership are crucial to that type of environment, project
Yeah.
management and real estate. And if you're able to pivot quickly, you'll do well because you're able to read. They say leaders are readers. I think leaders are readers of situations, of trajectory. They have a good gut feeling, and then they'll justify it with logic. So you seem to be a bit of a unicorn where you have a technical DNA, but you're also great with people. have a voice for radio, and
Yeah.
maybe that's something that's coming out of you in the last few years.
It's possible. I've heard this before. You're not the first to say it, and it's not something I'd ever embraced. But in the last year, I actually, after going to the Wealth Genius Expand and seeing sitting right up front in front of the stage and just absorbing all of this wonderful information, there was so much that I knew and so much that I didn't, right? And so every time somebody came up with something that I didn't know about that, my mind would tweak. And one of the people you had on the stage there was talking about podcasts. He was talking about the power of getting yourself out there and networking through social media with a podcast and what
Mm,
that can do for you. So and what he said, this was Jazz Takar, right? What he said
mm.
is that of all of you in the audience there's 500 people out there. Maybe 1% of you will take this advice. Right? And I decided right then and there I was going to be that 1%. So this will be, I believe, my 50th podcast that we're recording here.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah.
You said the word pamphlet when you were talking about how you got started. Pamphlets are a thing of the past. You see them sometimes. This podcast, this is the new pamphlet.
Right? This is it. Social media
This
has
is it.
changed the world as we know it. Nobody reads anything anymore. They have to
Well,
actually
it's
yeah.
people want to read on a reel as the captions go across the
Yeah.
screen.
It's a different world. And like you say, the ability to pivot, the ability to change and respect the fact that things aren't what they used to be. That's kind of the key, right? I think that as we look at all of the real estate opportunities and we watch the market and we see what's happening geopolitically and everything else, it's causing people to understand that word pivot in a real time, very hard lesson kind of way, right? And there's, we talk about that unfair advantage again. For me, the ability to actually assess risk is one of the key elements of project management, and it's so important here in real estate, right? Being able to assess it, being able to put in mitigation plans that will work effectively at, um, being responsive and being able to pivot quickly because you've already thought of.
That makes a lot of sense. I was going to ask you why the podcast, but you've essentially answered it. I think you're using the podcast not only to educate people, but to educate yourself. And I think it's fun. I think you have fun with it, and that's very important. Can you tell us why you're doing this? Like, what's the thing that makes you? I know you get up very early every morning.
Yeah.
You have a very special routine before everybody else gets up. Why are you doing this, Steve? Why are you working so hard? Why are you like you've got like you're busy?
Yeah. I've always been somebody that wants to be busy. So that side of things is not it shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, that knows me. But why am I doing this? There's a bit more to it, right? In the course of Steve's history, I've had a few resets, right? Yes, I've managed to develop quite a nice or quite a but I've also, I'm a third time lucky husband, Louis. So what that means is I've come financially down to zero two times in the past, and building that back up, there's a time reality that you need to put into the equations. So I am actually looking now to, I'm looking at how much longer am I going to continue working in my career? And where am I going to be financially if I've got another 30, 40 years after work ends? Where am I going to be financially? And I decided that I wasn't going to be able to get there without doing some extra work. So I looked into real estate investing because I already knew the power of real estate. I learned early on that I can double the value of that. That first home I sold for more than twice what I paid for it. My last home I managed to sell for three times what I paid for it. So I understand the ability to build equity in real estate. What I didn't know was how to do it professionally. I've invested now to understand that professionally because I can't leave my family's future to chance. I cannot make it through to the age that I expect to with at the lifestyle that I want, right? So I'm now on a mission to build wealth through real estate for myself and for my investors. I'm looking to build that generational wealth so that we can live life on our terms. And it's not just about financial wealth, but it's also about the knowledge and the creativity and the choices that you can make when you have that freedom, right? I want to provide for my family in a way that helps them understand what their potential is as well. And I want to be able to then support youth as kids are coming through high school and they're looking to what their future holds, like much like where I was when I was that 18-year-old. What do I do? I would like to actually help provide a means for them to realize a future, understand the
That's
potential, the opportunities. So that's what's driving me. I don't want to leave my future to chance, my family's future to chance, and I'd like to help others not be subject to rudderless moments where they haven't a clue what they're going to do.
I wanted to ask you about why should people invest with Steve Couper? You've given us a really good base. You know, you're a very consistent guy. You've never said the word discipline, but I feel like there's a lot of discipline in your DNA, probably from from your early days in your career. You learned about having a consistency. Consistency and discipline beat, like talent any day of the week. And so, why should people invest in Steve Couper today in 2025? Crazy landscape that we got going on here. I mean, things are changing with a tweet.
Yeah, no, there's truth here, right? So, I mean, what I do, I'll be telling you that the role that I serve here is I actually am always analyzing deals. I'm looking at properties and trying to make sure I understand and underwrite deals all the time. But it doesn't start there. It starts with understanding what the market's doing, understanding where we're sitting province by province across this country. I choose to invest in Canada, by the way. I know a lot of my friends are looking south of the border. They're looking at different countries, and I admire them for taking on that opportunity. I personally want to invest in Canada. I think a financially stronger Canadian builds a stronger country, and I'm a proud Canadian, and I really want to make sure that I support that methodology. I feel like there's a need for housing in Canada, and I want to be able to provide safe, comfortable places where people can call home, where Canadians can call home. So that's what drives me. So I analyze the Canadian market. I'm always looking at what's happening economically. I'm looking at what's happening from affordability, what's happening from a vacancy rate, where we're seeing unemployment, where are the jobs, what's drawing people in. So when you look at rental housing, what draws people to rental housing is typically work, right? They move to somewhere because of work. They move there because it's affordable. They can maybe raise their family there. They've got employment. And the first few years that they're living there, they're typically renting before buying a home because they want to feel things out, make sure.
Yeah.
So I want to actually be able to support that with rental housing that fits that niche. As I look across the country, I focus in on provinces that favor the rental housing provider, making sure that we can be fair in making sure that we're providing that safe, comfortable housing for fair market rate, right? And be able to actually encourage quality tenants that are interested in looking after this property as much as I look after them, right? That's what we're looking for. So back to your question, I do all of that work up front. That's happening in the background. I'm always underwriting deals and I'm always looking for capital to people that are interested in investing so that we can bring together those opportunities and their capital and put that to work so that they're not leaving their family's future to chance either.
I think that's very important what you just said. You know, you're thinking about the renter and providing responsible, safe, clean housing. You know, that type of spirit, if you will, that crusader spirit is, in my opinion, one of the things that's lacking from the real estate investment landscape. A lot
Yeah,
of people seeing their money and they want to make, they want to change their life and they want freedom for their family. These are all great things. But if we don't have that pixie dust, that je ne sais quoi, like the French say, that crusade, then it's not, in my opinion, it's not going to catalyze enough. When you help fulfill other people and you get that serotonin going on a consistent drip,
yeah.
more you help others, the more you're going to attract, all of the things that you require, not need or want, but require, truly require.
Yeah.
And so if you've got that perfect little recipe, which I think you have cracked that code, some magical things start to happen. Would you agree with that?
I totally do. I totally do. The work I do today, I work with a group of really impressive professionals, and I don't aspire to be the smartest person in the room. I like to surround
Me
myself
either.
with them, right? And
Yeah.
but at the same time, I can offer them something in that I can help build their career. I can help them learn, I can help them grow, and I actually look to try and help my team lift them up to be able to reach the top, right? And developing leaders is what I do. All of the things that I've mentioned, all of those turning wrenches and lean and all the other things don't matter. What I do is I develop leaders. That's what I really try to do. And I've got a great team of people, amazing group of potential leaders that are growing daily. And I want to take that same approach to what I'm doing with my investors, with my partners, with my tenants, try to lift them up, try to look after the people. I connect with people on the podcast to help them get their story out as much as, like you said, I learn from them, which
Mhm.
is, for me, I'm a sponge. I'm learning so much, but learning from them and helping them achieve their goals, right? This is the same thing. Helping them achieve their goals, helping my team at work achieve their goals. That's what we're doing.
What keeps you up at night? What scares you? What worries you?
You
And
know,
how do you deal with these, I'll call them like little gremlins, right? Like how do you deal with it? And what is it because sometimes, these things can be a really powerful motivator for men, certain men, and a little bit of fear is good. A lot of fear long term is not good for your health. But what is kind of like that, that I don't want to call it a demon, but what's that gremlin or these gremlins that make you really like stay like sharp, laser focused?
First off, I actually sleep very well every evening. However, I get there through a process. I actually started a number of years ago in developing something called time blocking. I didn't have a name for it then, but I really section off my calendar to make sure that I'm able to attend to the things that I need to at the time I need to and prioritize what's most important early in the day so that by the time I'm tired at the end of the day, I don't have any of those large rocks to try and move. Deal with the most important things first. Uh, One thing that is driving me is time. And I don't mean by I wish I had more time in the day. What I mean is how long, recognizing once again back to that third time lucky husband. And now I'm watching the calendar flip pages faster than a novel. And I recognize that time isn't infinite. Well, it is, but it's not for me. We have a limited number of days we're going to wake up, and what are we going to accomplish? And I want to get so much done. I have so many dreams and things that I want to see bring to fruition. And every day that goes by if I didn't get done what I wanted to, I kick my ass. And
Mm,
and every day that I'm working on that calendar of things that I want to do, and I am able to check a box, I get an endorphin rush. So I'm
mm.
far happier with the endorphin rush than I am with the ass kicking. So, yeah, this is how I approach it.
So time's your nemesis. That I can really relate to that. I think we're similarly aged. I guess
Yeah.
I'll say maybe you're a couple of weeks older than me, but I'll say we're kind of coming at life on the other side of like the project schedule, if you will. If we want to
Yeah.
talk about project management, in project management speak, the critical path, right? When I say the critical path, there's a sequence of events that happens in the schedule and the plan, but there's a certain like a certain path if you look at the Gantt chart of what's next and what needs to happen. What is next on the critical path for Steve Couper?
I tell you what, I got something really exciting happening right now. Yesterday, we submitted an offer on an apartment building. It's in Edmonton. I won't give too many details. I don't want the competition there, but what I see in this is a great opportunity. There's opportunity to increase the net operating income of this building quite significantly without it being something that we say to the tenants, hey, you're needing to pay a bunch more in rent. But there's opportunity to go in there and say, hey, there's a bunch of other unfulfilled opportunities within this building where we can actually increase the net operating income. There's opportunities to increase the efficiency of the building.
Mm.
And what those will do is increase the value of the property and help us get returns back to our investors. And that's why people invest in real estate is to be able to actually, it's not so much a cash flow game It's an ability to build wealth, and that's what I think is most important about most important for investors to understand is yes, there will be some cash flow. We use that to de-risk the investment for the things that come up. There will be some payments that we get every quarter or so, but building wealth is what we're really doing with real estate, right? At least when we're investing in markets like Edmonton.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, and I can resonate with that. And again, it's part of that crusade where you're saying we wanna increase the NOI, increase the valuation of the building, and make our investors happy, but at the same time, there's room to make the tenants happy with more value. So when you're doing a win-win situation, and everybody's basically high-fiving each other and there's like a synergy and
Yeah.
there's really no more sides, us versus them. It's almost like, it sounds a little bit corny and cliche, but like the team, which by the way includes the tenants, if everybody's happy in the pond, in the watering hole, then it's just gonna create a lot of attraction and a magnetic pull towards the property and toward its growth. So I think that's wonderful that you're able to find that type of opportunity.
It's not there. There are a number of good opportunities that are out there, but they hide. There's a lot of there's a lot of opportunities that I've looked at where it appears like a gem on the surface, but as you start diving through the books and understanding the numbers, you realize this isn't exactly what you told me. You're selling something that had a fresh coat of paint on it, but what's underneath is all rusted, right? So recently we had a 20-unit apartment building under contract, and we had to go back to the seller and say no. Based on what we're seeing in the numbers, you're misleading us here. There isn't going to be the value that you'd represented. It's hard to say no, but I think it's important to be able to recognize that. And there we go. We're going to let this one go. Somebody else will take this. We're going to move on. And shortly after that, we find this other unit, this other property that has over 40 units in it, and the potential and the location is so much better. It's really in a good part of town. It's close to traffic. It's close to schools. It's close to shopping and entertainment. It's really, I think, and it's a newer building as well. And so, there's a lot more to this property that I feel will bring value to our investors, and the tenant class is going to be somebody that appreciates what we're doing as well.
Saying no, showing that discipline that no, this doesn't fit our wheelhouse. It doesn't fit our key performance indicators, if you want to be sounding technical. Foregoing it takes a lot of discipline. A lot of investors would try and finesse that and like finagle it into what's that saying, like a square peg in a round hole.
That's right.
This is not that type of scenario. You're
No,
looking for something that meets criteria, the mandatory criteria, and if it doesn't, you move on. And
yeah.
this is important for you to this is important for your investors because they know that they've got somebody at the helm with discipline,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, that's it. I don't, the magic rule here that I think everybody needs to respect is we don't want to lose money, right? I don't want to lose any of my money or my investors' money. I don't want to have anything tarnish our approach here. So with that in mind, like I say, applying all of the principles of project management as we underwrite and as we manage properties, that'll help us make sure we're assessing everything accurately. Building, like you mentioned, a Gantt chart that looks at what do we need to do, when are we going to do it, what is the cost, the cash flow going to look like as we're paying for these different improvements? What are
Mhm.
we going to be, what do we need to have in reserve as things tend to, you lift the rock and what's underneath it, you find different things. What kind of caution do we have? And what is that going to do to your occupancy while you're doing renovations, for instance, or things like that? Have you factored that financially to make sure that you're recognizing, hey, I'm going to have 10 suites that are vacant for a period of time. What is that doing to your income for that month or two? All of these things to say, we don't come into this knowing all about it. You invest a lot of money and time training. And that's what
Mhm.
I've done. For the last few years, I've really focused on education, investing in myself to make sure that I understood in great detail how to underwrite a multifamily property. I've chosen multifamily over duplex and triplex. I've chosen to go with apartment buildings, 15 units or more, because I feel like those that asset class affords me to be able to have the right team in place
Mm.
so that I don't have another job to be turning wrenches in the building. I've got a team that's going to be looking after this. And you can't necessarily get there with the duplex triplex, you know. You need to be more boots on the ground, I feel. But with a 15 unit or more, you can maybe afford a caretaker. You can afford certainly to have a property manager in place and the trades at your beck and call to be able to deal with it. So
The
that's
team.
the approach.
Yeah, I think it's key that you mentioned that it's not they're not just investing in Steve Cooper, they're investing with Steve Cooper and Steve Cooper's team. The team on the ground, the team, at headquarters. It's really crucial to build these kinds of relationships and project manager needs to have, or the investor, which in this case it's kind of the same hat, needs to have that type of influence to get the buy-in from the tenants, from the team, from the lenders on the crusade. And we don't go to London and say, well, I'm doing a crusade. No, you present them the numbers, but you're basically taking that same message and presenting it to different people in different languages. And I think you're very good at translating for different audiences and different avatars. So I really want to commend you on that. And then on that note, are you willing to describe what your perfect investor looks like? And this doesn't mean that your investments are only geared to the type of people you're gonna describe now. If we had, like I always say to my students, if I gave you a magic wand and you could create your perfect avatar for the investor that would love to see this kind of deals you're dealing with, what does that person look like?
So I've actually put a lot of thought into this. You know, it's not something I had an answer for the first time I was asked. But it's come down to um, this is a busy professional. This is a somebody who's working in maybe aerospace, as a doctor or a dentist. Is a busy person, somebody who works hard all day long, has their mind always moving, makes good money, accredited investor. But you finish your day at work. Do you have the time to invest in understanding real estate properly? You want to invest in real estate, but you don't necessarily want to invest the time to train yourself like I've had to the boots on the ground, the work on trying to understand all of these properties and underwrite them yourself. You don't have time for that because you're busy. You're probably somewhere in your 40s. You're at a high potential earning level, right? This is the most important time of your life. You're wanting to live life and enjoy your family. You're raising your family, and you want there to be that nest egg that looks after you when you stop working. You're hopefully going to be retiring somewhere in your 50s, and you want the money to be there for you when you're retired. So these people, they're high income, busy professionals that don't have the time to invest in real estate, but know they want to. They're not getting the returns they want in their mutual funds or stock market. They're not trusting Bitcoin. Well, at least I don't. And they haven't found comfort with that yet. And yet they recognize the value of hard assets, right? And in hard assets, we look at real estate as the one consistent means to build wealth. It's not the fastest, it's not the riskiest by any means, but it is certainly a stable means of investing and building wealth. And it's proven year over year over year. It's something that you want to invest in. You don't have the time to understand in detail. You want to have somebody you can trust to help you build that wealth. And that's where I come in, and that's where I see my ideal avatar investor.
You take all my money.
Okay, let's go.
Well, I think we should probably start wrapping it up because I think you probably have some stuff on your next time box. I want to commend you for doing all of this with a lot of passion and being so consistent with your podcast.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much. I appreciate that. It's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. That's about right. And so much has transpired in your life and in the real estate market in the world, and we're still here and we're still moving forward. And I'm excited for what's coming down the pipe in the next 12 to 18 months in Canadian real estate and in the world. And I'm an optimist, and I think you are too. And so anything else that you'd like to say on your podcast, sir?
Well, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for joining us. It's been a real pleasure to spend time with you today, Luis. And let's see, if you're a busy professional in the aerospace, medical, or dental industry and you're looking for smarter, more reliable way to grow wealth, well, let's connect.
My name's Luis. It's been
My
a
name's
pleasure to be on this podcast again.
again.
Again, maybe the first returning. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you to everyone. And we'll see you on the next one.
Appreciate you, Luis. You're awesome.
So are you, man. Take
Thank
care.
you.